Okay, so just to start, just tell me how the summer has been getting ready for school.
Yes, it's been quite busy. Lots of planning going into place, getting ready to make sure that, number one, our schools are properly prepared, cleanliness, and making sure that repairs are done, making sure that, again, the issues that affect safety are in place. And then, of course, then looking at the logistics, making sure that, number one, we have quality teachers, which we do in our schools, that we're able to recruit and retain or teaching staff, and then of course the support staff, which is also very critical to the success of our school, making sure those hires are done, and then working with food services, working at transportation, making sure that all of those are done, and then of course informing parents, that hey, school's about to start, let's get the forms in, let's get addresses changed, let's get enrollment in those that are opting in for busing, those that are needing additional information for their scholars, making sure they have that. So it's quite a planning, organizationally that happens now.
And then kind of going based off of that, I know today was the last day for parents to sign up for that transportation. I know in the past there's been some issues with parents not filling out those forms, and then come the first day of school, it's kind of chaotic. Are you guys anticipating that the numbers that you have right now are accurate?
Yes, I think that we are pretty close. Our communications office has done a magnificent job of sending out the information, making sure that parents are informed and doing it repeatedly. So again, we anticipate that numbers will be up, and that we'll be seeing less of, I call it a last-minute dash to get the scholars to opt in for busing.
Mm-hmm. Any reason to believe you'll have to consolidate lines or anything for busing?
There will be some of that happening. We did a study last year on lines, and to be able to be more efficient with our buses and so on, the STA, which is again a private company, they did a study to determine which lines they can consolidate, and there will be some of that happening. But for us, it's to ensure that every scholar makes it to school every day, and we should be discouraging scholars from staying home, and one way we do that is making sure that our transportation to and from school is in such a condition that we are hitting the mark 100% of the time. Now, I must admit, last year we saw some situations where bus drivers were sick, or the numbers started dwindling, bus drivers were leaving. But again, we're anticipating some of that this year, and we're positioning ourselves in such a manner that we should see less of cancellations with our buses, because that is no good for anyone, and that's something we strongly discourage. We want scholars in school every day.
Absolutely. And so when you say you guys are doing things to make sure that doesn't happen, what does that look like?
Looking at hiring, enough drivers, having, I guess, substitute drivers that are there, and just setting up our systems to where if we do see a reduction, we can still consolidate in some areas, and make sure that, again, we're prepared for any lack of drivers, as one would say, or anything like that happening.
At this point right now, do you foresee you guys having enough drivers?
Yes. I got a report from yesterday from my new director of transportation, and he said we have the drivers now. The key there is to maintain the drivers, because again, SDA is a private company, and so they have their mechanisms in place that outside of CPS, and that's what we're hoping to see.
What will that consolidation look like, and how will that affect students and parents trying to get their students to school? So
they'll be informed perhaps of a different stop or different time for pickup, and the number of our scholars on the buses, we'll see an increase. There's a threshold for buses that we must abide by law, and we will continue to do that. We're just going to make sure that in places where perhaps we see a bus that may be a quarter full or less than half full, we can actually consolidate with another pickup area, so that way we come into they're brought to school in a bus that's full of scholars. So that's one strategy.
And then how and when will parents be informed of that?
It's going on right now. As they're opting in, their plans are being made, and as today's the last day, as you mentioned, and so they'll be informed, I would say, within this week, and it'll be ongoing. They'll be accessing that information on websites and things like that.
Yeah. And then I know something big that's going to be discussed on Monday is the student resource officers.
Yes.
School resource officers, sorry. Tell me a little bit about that and what you guys expect to talk about.
Sure. Well, the school board has not made a decision yet on whether or not we'll have school resource officers. We've worked with the city, and we are putting forth, again, a plan or contract to the school board for them to approve, because they have the authority to approve or disapprove, the contract. And of course, the school resource officers suggest that there's additional officers within the school that work with our scholars to build relationships, community relationships, and to just be a helping hand. I have to emphasize one area that they're not there for is for discipline. They're not there to work with discipline. They're there to build community relations with officers and to just serve as a helping hand for scholars.
What would be the reason for not having them?
At this point, I can't think of a reason for not having them. I can't. I think, looking at the records from last year and what they've been able to accomplish, I think, it was a very good initiative for us to have, and working collaboratively with the city and working with our current police department. I think there were many positives that came from this.
But you guys are expected to vote on whether or not you want to keep those?
Yes, the school board has the authority to do that. So they'll be voting on that on Monday as to whether or not they'll keep them or not keep them. And again, that's their right as a school board to make that determination.
Mm-hmm. And then obviously something a lot of parents care about is keeping their students safe in school, obviously. So how do you go about that if those were to be voted to not be a thing anymore?
Well, we have our own internal safety and security officers here in the school system, and they play a very vital role to ensuring that, again, our schools are safe, and they're responsible for all schools. As you know, our SROs were assigned to the high schools, and so this was just an added feature to also allow that safety net to be widened as far as utilizing the school resource officers. But we do have our internal safety and security team that helps us with that.
And what does that look like?
Right now we have about 8, I believe, and they're distributed throughout, and they have certain sectors that they are responsible for, and they go in, they make themselves known to administrators, they work with teachers, and by the way, SROs also do that. They also work with scholars. They, in the hallway, they have classes and they have sessions with them, and so does our safety and security team. So that way, not only are they there for safety, but they're also there to build relationships with scholars, and to also allow the scholars and administration teachers to get to know them as well. And I think that's important, especially as we develop a stronger safety net for Columbia Public Schools.
Absolutely. And then kind of going based off of that, I believe in April there was a weapons detection, what's the word I'm looking for? I guess like presentation at Hickman High School. Is there any more talk about that?
We're continuing to investigate that. There are several companies that are coming forth, and we want to make sure that whichever system is chosen, it does what it says and it's effective. So again, it's not a decision that's being made overnight. We're taking our time. We're doing the research. We're calling other school districts to see what they have and their success stories, as well as areas that perhaps did not go so well. So that is being currently studied, and I think we're on the trajectory to get such a system, but we're just making sure that we cover all bases, so when we do implement, it's a strong implementation, and it's implemented with the ability to have a great level of success for the safety of our scholars.
Mm-hmm. And then I went to one school board meeting where there was some talks about video intercoms being installed at certain schools this summer, and then next summer that would only leave about 3 or 4. What does that look like right now?
So it's important for us that we have a secure school. So we're doing what we call secure vestibules at every school, and we are about 3 or 4 schools away from having that totally complete. So if an individual comes to a school, they are basically having to be buzzed in, and we're making sure that, again, there's a line of sight with that individual, and that they just can't walk into a school, but they have to be buzzed in as a security feature, because at the end of the day, we want to ensure that our scholars are safe. We want to make sure that our teachers or staff members, everyone is safe. So again, this is an additional feature that we're putting in all schools, and we are just about finished with that initiative.
When do you foresee you'll be finished with that?
I think by the end of this school year, we should see that complete, yes.
And then kind of looking at current projects that you guys are working on, how are those looking right now? I know there's Russell Boulevard, I believe there's Rockbridge Elementary. What are those looking like right now?
So Russell Boulevard should be finished by the end of this school year. We have Rockbridge Elementary that will be starting up, and by the next school year. We have the Career Center that's also undergoing a major facelift. They haven't been renovated in years, and we want to make sure that our workforce development programs are robust, and so we're creating that environment for them. And then we have a new elementary school that's coming online. They have started building that. They're doing design right now, and so by the end of the school year, we expect to break ground and begin that work, which will take probably another 2 or 3 years. So we're very, very, very excited about that. And then there's a major initiative that's taking place. This is the creation of a health clinic for our CPS scholars. This will be strictly for them, and that's taking place at we call the field building. That's where we have our gifted center, and that's undergoing renovation right now because of the contributions of Brightly that works with Burrell. They are companies one and the same, and they're actually undergoing renovation to make that space a medical clinic as well as an optometry clinic, so that our scholars can have access to eye exams, access to medical care, whenever they need it.
Mm-hmm. Then it sounds like Columbia is a pretty fast-growing area. Are these projects being done because schools have been too congested recently, or?
Well, this has been done because, again, we need to ensure that our scholars can see. If they can't see, they can't read, they can't engage in the classroom environment like they should. And the younger we can catch any issues with eyesight, then to me that rules out any deterrence to learning and to reading and to seeing what's ahead. So that initiative is being more proactive, as far as the health of our scholars. And then the health clinic is an addition, because we notice that one of the issues that we see is that we have a great nursing staff here, and they can only do so much, but being able to refer or interact with a medical doctor and be able to help get a scholar from school to that clinic, and just having total access for all, regardless of socioeconomic condition, regardless of any factors. It will be an open clinic for all scholars of CPS.
Mm-hmm. I think I should have been a little bit more specific on that last question. Are these new schools that are being built because schools currently are too congested?
Yes. What's happening is there's a long-range committee, and they do like a 10-year plan, and they look at projections and look at our enrollment, which is increasing, it's creeping up. And so we never want to be stuck where we have overcrowded schools. That's no good for anyone. So because of that long-range planning, because of the team that looks at this every year, and actually not just every year, but they meet every month, we saw a need several years ago for a new elementary school, and that's coming online now. So lots of planning, lots of working with our demographers, lots of interaction with our community to ensure that, number one, we're serving our scholars well, and that's one way, is to ensure that classrooms are not overcrowded, buildings are not overcrowded.
And then looking at the Boone Nature School, is that still on track to be completed by March of next year?
Yes, there may be a slight delay, because what we're finding is access to materials has in the construction world, that's an ongoing issue. So there might be a slight delay, but it's on track in terms of we're continuing to see progress. As I've driven by, I've seen the walls going up and the buildings, and we see it coming online very close to that time frame. Maybe a slight delay, but we see it definitely coming on track.
And then kind of looking at the school improvement plan, something that kind of caught my eye was attendance rates, and you guys are trying to get that increased by, I believe, 90% by 2026. How do you go about doing that?
Lots of planning, lots of hard work, lots of outreach to our parents. So what we've seen is there was a wane in attendance, especially coming back from COVID. And, we were in the 70s, you can say, or 70% attendance. And remember, this number indicates the number of our scholars that attended school 90% of the time. It's not just a flat attendance metric. It's 90% of our scholars attending school. So 70% of our scholars attended school 90% of the time. And we're working with our Chief Equity Officer, Mrs. London, is taking on that initiative with her team. And this year we ended at about 80%. So again, we're seeing a climb in attendance, but it's not near to where we want to be. We want to be closer to 95, 96% attendance, and again, with our strategic plan, it says by 26, 27, and we plan to get there. And I think we will, based upon the trajectory that we're on right now.
Mm-hmm.